of the increase because of the $6 million. But he's got to take into consideration, just like we're doing now, you have to add and subtract all the other warrant articles, and it will not go up that much money.
Well, this does.
All right, so your comment is that at the end of the day, next year, when we look at the net, a new plan versus an old plan in terms of education, it could be not necessarily, you're suggesting that we shouldn't assume that it's going to be significant.
Exactly, just like now.
Yes.
Just a quick clarification. The 312 includes the reduction in Articles 3, 4, and 5 as well?
Right, it's net, yeah.
Okay,
Right? Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, Roger? Are you guys done talking about Article 2? You have a question, Lou? Yes, Lou, go ahead.
This will be a question with a follow-up. Let's enter into this agreement, and we agree that by the 2017-2016, we'll have a new elementary school. We have got to ensure we've got to have that school. The school is going to make sure that whatever we need to do will be done by the town so the children have a place to go. Unless we stop sending performance. I guess what I'm getting at is that the $650 million figure has to be fairly close or on the mark in order to accomplish this. We're not really sure, since the cost we have to come up with this somehow. The cost estimate is sure good. But the number 650.
6.5.
Like that. We haven't had any discussion on that yet. I was waiting for the end. Where does that come from? Well, I don't know where it comes from, but what's been done to ensure it that's accurate?
Okay, so this is a good question. So his question is, how do we know 6.5 million bond is the right number?
The board engaged with Paul Marinese Architects, and values came from Paul Marinese.
Where?
Paul Marinese Architects, or I should say Frank Marinese Architects. And they're the ones who put it together using case history. They've been involved in a tremendous amount of school projects within the state of New Hampshire. They have a very good historical evidence, cost along with ours means cost estimation as well as schools. Both constantly working with construction managers. So those values came from them. You're going to see that later on in a brief spreadsheet with what they allocated for the different elements of the project too.
Ronald?
Sure, go ahead.
Has the board talked to any of the school districts that use this architect to find out if there have been pretty close or on the mark?
I have not.
That's the board. As an individual.
I don't have not.
So maybe the question is, it sounds like you're confident that this is a number. You probably have done some research to assure yourselves that you ask the people, suggest to people if they raise and appropriate, borrow this money, that they'll be able to accomplish what the purpose of the article. So can you help us understand why you have that confidence?
Frank Marinese has been in the state of New Hampshire for well over 20 years, around 30, designing and acting as prime consultant for a number of projects. And you can actually go to their website and you can see the number of projects they've been doing over the past 30 years. And I don't think that they would get where they are today to have the demand, workload demand that they have, with bad reputation of not coming up short on school district projects. I think something like that would be a travesty to any business if that's what they were doing. You know, running low numbers to get projects approved, and have them get approved and they come up short with money. I don't see how anybody would be successful in business doing it.
Okay, I'm going to go back here.
Did we get a couple of different estimates from different companies? Or did we just pick one and go with it.
Sure, go ahead.
Marinese Architects consulted with two construction managers here in New Hampshire and went over pricing with them in addition to their own historical pricing. So they actually had some construction managers look at this specific project in concept from that standpoint, what would be constructed.
So your confusion, So you went to someone who has an architectural firm that has some expertise in building this kind of facility. You asked them to give you a price something out. They went to a couple of different construction companies to secure their prices, used their own historical data on building similar kinds of facilities, and came up with a price.
They use their own historical data, and then what they do is based on historical data, they in turn reach out to construction managers and ask them to take a look at it, and they get that feedback, and then they adjust their numbers accordingly. And the idea is, based upon January, is to get a real good pulse of what's going on in the industry. Because in any industry, there are changes that can occur. So their historical data is going to be based upon the past year, past 2 years, looking at trends. So if their last check is checking with the construction manager to see what they have come up with in real time, to see if they need to make any final adjustments.
I believe, I'm led to believe that that plan that we got right now is kind of like the first pass. Once this money gets appropriated, if that happens, at that point the building committee will resume its activities towards the creation of that building. So I don't think that's exactly set in stone, right? The 6.5 million, that's the worst case, but that building isn't set in stone, right? Is that fair to say?
Maybe you can help us by reminding us where you are in the process of finalizing a potential building design, commissioning an architect builder, that kind of stuff. But where are you in that process?
The process right now, and as typical, conceptual design brought forward by the architect. If this article gets passed in March, at that point, the contract will be drawn up with the architectural firm, and will advance to the design phase, at which point the building committee goes active, and the architect, through consultation with building committee, who then has a set budget, goes through the process of design development, right up to construction documents, where all the finite details. So he has that budget. That's it. That's what he's got to work with. And so that's where a lot of decision making is made about what goes into the school building.
Just real quick, just for public record, who's on the building committee right now? Schwartz. So Tracy Donovan's on the building committee. Schwartz. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go over here and now get here.
And with regards to Marinades, I sat in on the USDA meeting with John Malone and Mike Schwartz, and if I remember correctly, Marinades is well known to the USDA, number one. Number two, when they did all of this work, they did it pro bono. We didn't pay for anything that Marinades has done. Just so all you people know that, we didn't spend any money.
Okay, over here.
Given that the elementary school K through 6 was only put on discussion in October, the building committee had their first meeting in November. It was said by a school board member that this is unprecedented in the rush that we're getting this done. I'd like to ask the room to zero out the bond and make the board take their time and do this right.
All right, so that's a motion on the floor to amend the article. I would need a second.
I second.
I got a second here. Can I get your name for the clerk?
Kelly, Tracy.
Okay, you got a second? All right, we're discussing an amendment. The amendment would be to amend Article 3 to 0. And when you went, the article would stay on the ballot when you went to vote in March. You would be voting on a article that raises no money. Essentially would kill this bill for this ballot cycle. So we're discussing.
Sure to clarify, that's the three numbers that were
Okay, thank you, yeah, so I'll clarify that in a minute. What I heard was that you wanted no money whatsoever appropriated in Article 2.
Take their time.
Right, so that all numbers referenced in Article 2, including 210,450 as amended, 6.595 million, and what was the other one? Well, both the references of the 6.5 million, all would be zero. That's the proposed amendment and the second. All right, so let's discuss that. Yes.
Real quick, I just want to make a general comment that I think it's pretty rotten zeroed out, because while we're all here, the entire town should be voting on this, so basically you're taking that vote away from them.
They had the chance to come, Ken.
And you know what? And are you still having the PK for
All right,
Farmington?
please direct your comments through, please, hold on, folks. Please direct your comments through me, not to each other.
The answer is no.
So, we're gonna go right here?
I have a comment and a question.
Yeah.
The first is, what would more time bring? I mean, it's still gonna be the same thing no matter how much time you spend looking at it. But my question is, what would that do to our withdrawal plan? I mean, there's a certain,
That's the question is, what would zeroing out the article do to our withdrawal plan? So, the school board, you want to answer that? So it would fail as of today, effectively, right? Okay, so any question back here?
I think we've already waited too long to get a school in this town. Look how much the price has gone up from when we first proposed a school years ago, and we're no better off. Our children are still getting a terrible education, and frankly, I've never seen a school board work so hard in my life. Many years ago, I was a treasurer, and we had 3 women on the school board. Every meeting, they sat and giggled. Waste of my time, waste of the bookkeeper's time. We were just...
Sounds like me when I was selected.
We need to go ahead.
Move forward.
All right, any comment here?
I would like to reiterate that, again, if we don't do something this year, the prices are only going to be higher next year. And I've been to a lot of school board meetings and a lot of town meetings. And again, I would also like to reiterate that the school board may have not had a lot of time to get this done, but they have used every minute productively, and a lot of it on their own time outside of the board doing research and bringing back to the board for decisions.
Yes.
I would, again, like to say that if the time has been short, they've made very, very good use of it, and with the best interest of the town at heart.
Other comments or questions? Yes.
I'd just like to remind everybody that not only was the plan, the withdrawal plan submitted to the State Department of Education, but it was unanimously approved to be found feasible and suitable for the education of our kids. So with respect to moving too fast, if that were true, the State Department of Education surely would have said, you guys are going too fast, you got to rethink this strategy, and that didn't happen twice.
Okay, so we're going to go here, and I'll get you called.
I would just like to make sure that everybody knows that the reason why we're at the point of speaking to a bond, talking about a bond, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the original withdrawal plan was for students to continue in Farmington for K through 6, but Farmington voted twice not to accept our K through 6 students, so the next reasonable step was to look at building a school.
Yeah, they told that to the state board as well.
Hang on.
Just wanting people to understand.
Well, my comment or question is, I'm led to understand that if we don't do this now, or if we choose to sit back and think about it a little bit longer, it is possible that Farmington will pass a bond of some sort for school repairs, whatever. And if that happens, we can't withdraw from the area agreement and then we're stuck with them, no matter what our feelings are. So if we don't move on this issue and move on the money, we're wasting our time right here, right now.
Yes, Roger.
I want people to understand too also, if we go back to Farmington with our tail between our legs, they're gonna start whacking the hell out of us like they've been doing all the time. So we can't do that.
All right, thank you. Yes, in the back.
Can I address, Tracy, exactly what the concerns are with regards to what's being rushed? Do you feel that the architecture or the building plan itself is being rushed?
I think like other people have asked, it wasn't put out to a lot of people. A board member said it was unprecedented, that it was going this fast. I think it's a slowdown. I don't care what people vote, you can vote any way you want. I was all for Governor Wentworth, the school I'm not sold on. I just wanted to bring it up, you don't have to throw knives.
But do you feel that we should get, what I'm asking is, do you feel that we should get more estimates from the architecture, more?
I think that would be only in the town's interest to try to get the lowest possible number. Everybody here is suffering with their taxes. This is a big, huge deal.
Okay,
All right.
just asking.
We're going to go Evelyn, because I haven't heard from her yet.
I'd like to make a motion that we vote on the amendment.
I second.
So I hear someone moving the amendment on the floor. You want to do that?
Yes.
Everybody comfortable? You're done talking about the amendment? Yeah?
I want to I moved the amendment with the second, but way back in the beginning. What is the attorney's opinion on that?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your
I
question.
moved to have the amendment that we had right in front of you, read, without anything else except for the 210,000 or whatever it is. I moved to go
Well, we have to deal with the
if there was a motion made in the second.
Now you got two amendments.
You got two amendments.
we already voted on the first amendment.
When he moved it. I didn't vote.
I moved the article.
He didn't vote on who.
Right, but I didn't accept that motion.
But there was a second.
I didn't hear the second, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the second. I didn't hear the second, and I saw their hands up, that was my call to keep going. So if you want to be unhappy about it, ask about that. Right now, we have an amendment on the floor. It was seconded, we discussed it, and someone wants to move and vote on that amendment, so that's what I would go and do. Right, is that okay? Vote on that amendment?
I'm asking for clarification, what we're voting on now, we're gonna vote on the amendment to change it to zero?
I'll clarify exactly what we're voting on right now, okay? I'll read the entire thing that we're gonna vote on right now. All right? You don't have to write down everything I said. So there's a motion on the floor, a second that we're gonna vote on, to amend Article 2 to read thusly. Shall the Middleton School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $0 for the construction and original equipping and furnishing of a new school building located on Kings Highway and Ridge Road for the purpose of educating Middleton students in grades preschool to 6th grade, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $0 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the municipal officials to issue and negotiate such bonds or notes and determine the rate of interest thereof. Furthermore, to raise and appropriate the additional sum of $0 for the purpose of making the initial bond payment. This amount may be offset by any interest earned on bond proceeds as transferred to the general fund on or before June 30, 2015. And to further authorize the school board to take any other action necessary to carry out this vote, including the acquisition and or conveyance of any necessary utility agreements to support the project. This article shall only take effect if Article 6 pertaining to the withdrawal of the area agreement Farmington area schools, and Article 5 pertaining to tuition agreement with the Governor Wentworth School District also approval. That's the amendment. $0, $0, $0. All those in favor of amending Article 2, as I just read it, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed to amending the Article 2, as I just read it, signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Does anybody disagree that the nays have it? That amendment does not carry. So is there any more discussion about Article 2?
I get some. Also, Governor Wentworth refused to have K through certification.
They didn't refuse.
They're at capacity.
Both Farmington and Government Wentworth refused to have them.
Yes.
I know we have presentation coming, so I'm just wondering if we're being.
Well, so it's a fair point. So we have some legal business to conduct here. We have to go through these articles, give ourselves a chance to amend them if we so choose, and close the meeting. And then we can have all the kind of public information you want. In the meantime, I mean, if you want to stop and have a presentation, fine. What I'm trying to do is get you through the articles and through the deliberative session as legally required. Right? Yes.
I just want to clarify, Governor Wentworth refused to take our kids because they don't have the capacity.
Right.
That's not the reason, that's definitely not the reason Farmington refused.
All right, so there is an article later on about the withdrawal plan, and some of these questions I'm hearing now are about that rather than Article 2, which is about bonding for building a school. So I'm going to ask if anybody has any more questions or comments specific to Article 2 about bonding for building a school. About Article 2 and bonding, Roger? Okay.
I'm gonna move them. And I'll second it.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to take a vote. It's a little legally squishy, but what we're voting on now is whether we're done talking about Article 2 as amended, right? It was amended to go from 46,000 to 210,000. And we're going to move on to Article 3. Right? All those in favor of sending Article 2 as amended to the ballot, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Good job, folks. Good job.
It only took an hour and 13
I know, I
minutes.
feel like we accomplished something though. That's one amendment, and one amendment do we have?
Okay, Article 3. So, let the minutes reflect that article passed and will be on the ballot for March as amended. As amended being from 46,000 to 210,000. All right, let's move on to Article 3.
Would somebody be so kind and draw that first shade down and do one by two? Yeah. That's all I got right now. Be gentle, one of budget. Thank you.
Do I have a second on lowering the line? All right, Article 3. Shall the Middleton School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $3,717,218. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $3,660,572, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Middleton School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, 16, take up the issue of revising operating budget only. Note, this operating budget warrant article does not include appropriations contained in any other warrant articles. The school board recommends this article 5 to nothing. The budget committee recommends this article 7 to nothing. Right? Your motion to consider this article as second. All right. Questions, comments on Article 3? Questions or comments on Article 3, operating budget? If there are none, I would say this is an unprecedented situation. There's no Yes.
This is the money we're spending now, so this isn't changing from last year, is that what I understand?
This is the money that's spending now. This is this year's operating budget, correct?
Paris, this year's upcoming operating budget as proposed for fiscal year 14-15 begins this July 1st, as compared to the operating budget that we're currently in.
This is clarifying what this money is for, right?
Yes, please.
A reduction of $105,000. That's the variance between the current budget we are in right now and what's being proposed for next year.
So this, and Deliberative, I think your question is, our kids are going to be in Farmington schools this year regardless of what happens in March, and this is the budget that pays for that. Right? So I've got that right?
And it's a reduction, I didn't hear his answer, I'm sorry. It's a,
Page 6 of 6
yeah,
in this document, it'll say differential current year for CY versus proposed, $105,658.67.
okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
So is the tax impact for each article not going to be on the warrant?
I'm hearing the answer is no.
Why?
It has to be voted.
Yeah, so Todd says he can speak to that. So the question is, will the tax impact of each article be on the warrant, and if not, why not? Todd?
So we got legal opinion that said that we can't just put it on there unless it's requested by the people or by a warrant article. So we couldn't do it this year. Next year, if someone wanted to put forth a petition article, or if the board so chose to put forth a warrant article to add that, then then the following year, after that, we can put it on. But until there's a warrant article to allow it, we can't do it.
Okay, back in the back there.
I thought we voted on that last year.
I believe that was on the town side. Over here.
Do we know what the reduction is from?
We know what the reduction in the operating budget is being referenced and is from.
$105,000.
Right. Yeah, what is it?
You,
Superintendent is saying out-of-district placement.
the other thing is, we gratefully, the taxpayers voted in new buses last year, so we don't have some of those expenses incurred, which is we had some very high repair values. Some of you may recall on some of the old buses, so we've seen some reduction in that area as well.
Yes, Mr. Mullin.
Thank you. I am a bit confused, and maybe I'm misreading this here. We're voting on an appropriation of $3,700,000 in change. Is that correct? I have a problem with that. Is that correct?
3.7
Okay,
million.
I'm hearing that this is lower than last year's, and in the warrant article says, if the article is defeated, the default budget shall be $3,660,000. That's less.
Right, so it's a fair question.
So,
School board.
can I follow up?
Yeah, go ahead, follow up.
So shall the vote be that if you want last year's budget at $3,600,000, you defeat the article?
That's correct. If at March's town meeting, you would vote against the operating budget, and that carries, right, then the default budget would be put in place. But your other question was, if it's true that this operating budget is less than last year, how come the default budget is less than this year, right?
That's correct.
That seems like a good question. Any good answer?
So if we need no, we're voting yes. We need yes.
They need a motion, so, okay. Okay, so here's an explanation from the superintendent that the default budget at 3.6 million reflects some of those same reductions as the new proposed operating budget, which means that really the default budget, it's the default budget, it doesn't mean it's necessarily the same as last year, right? It's the default budget, not the exact same thing as last year.
It says the words, which is the same as last year.
But it also, the words with the default budget is not exactly the same budget you had last year because you may have contractual obligations change from year to year. So for instance, if you had a bus lease and there was an increase in the cost of that lease from one year to the next year, the default budget would actually go up because that contractual obligation changed. The same is true with tuitions. We can't budget tuitions that are not necessary. And so you see the same reduction in our district tuitions. Default budget alters both up and down based on contractual obligations and requirements of the statements. For instance, one-time expenditures do not get carried over from one default budget to the next. You bought a bus for $800,000, that amount of money has to come out. This default budget, you're not buying enough bus.
So that's
Yeah,
the whole
you can do
certain
that.
adjustments, part of the wording. It said last year with certain adjustments.
Yeah, they can do that.
Good question.
Just $1.
Yes, sir.
$1 for that purpose. Since we're working in the future, just out of curiosity, the budget listed as 3.7, the operating budget.
Good.
If that went, if we owned the school, where would that number approximately fall in? Maybe it's the wrong.
You mean, let me make sure I understand your question.
Right now, it's 3.7, let's say, whatever the number is, the operating budget, sending our kids to Farmington, correct? Okay. If we owned the school,
Yeah.
and we had teachers and things that we needed to staff with, I take it that's part of the operating budget that we're talking in this, the cost per student, correct? Where would the cost of students be if we owned our own school?
Right, so you're asking a question sort of in the
Yeah, well,
future.
since we're talking the whole thing is the
I
future,
suggest
yeah.
that that's a good question for the withdrawal plan article.
Okay.
So it won't affect the outcome of this specific article.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Other questions or comments on Article 3? Want to move on? All right. Everybody in favor of putting Article 3 on the ballot as read, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That Article 3 carries, and we'll go on the article as read. Article 4, shall the voters of Middleton School District adopt a school administrative budget, unit budget, of $928,212 for the forthcoming fiscal year, in which $120,064 is assigned to the school budget of this school district. This year's adjusted budget of $929,999, with $120,295 assigned to the school budget of this school district, will be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the school district voters voting in the school administrative unit. The school board recommends this article 5-0. The budget committee recommends this article. Do I hear a motion to consider this article as read? Okay, we'll talk about it. Do I hear a second? Second. I hear a second right here.
Okay, good.
So questions or comments on Article 4?
I'd like to make a motion to change the numbers. The first number needs to be changed to $928,212. $2,064 will remain the same. And the default budget will be amended to $985,903. And the $120,295 will remain the same.
So I have a motion on the floor to amend Article 4, amend the amounts, the amounts in Article 4, from 928,212 to 984,116, and from 929,99 to 985,903. Do I hear a second of that? Immediately is seconded. All right, can you explain? Andrew?
If you take out this green sheet that shows the S&P, on the top row, you look over to the second column, it says 2014-15 proposed budget. And you look down to the bottom three numbers in that column, you'll see the 984,116 that Andrea just amended the motion to. You'll see that we're applying $55,904 in indirect cost revenue. So when you subtract that from the 984, you end up with the 928,212 that you saw on the warrant. DRA has said that we have to publish the total number first before the revenue is applied to it. So what Andrea's motion does is it tells you the total amount before the revenue is applied. The net effect is zero because your apportionment stays the same. But for DRA purposes, we have to show the gross number and the revenue was subtracted, and you end up with a net, which is what the apportionment is based on. The same is true on the bottom section for the default. With the numbers that Andrea gave you, the 985,903, that's the gross number of the default. Again, minus the same 55,904 in direct cost, gets you to the 929,999. So it's essentially a bookkeeping exercise with DRA, but the apportionment and the amount to be appropriated is not changed.
DRA being the Department of Revenue. Everybody get that? Any questions or comments about the proposed amendment to Article 4? I'm going to vote on the amendment of Article 4. Yeah, questions?
So I understand the DRA wants it one way, but what are we truly paying the SAU? The 984 or the 928?
You're not paying,
120 is Middleton.
Middleton is paying 120.
Our
Oh,
Middleton's
okay.
much.
If you look on the second page, Sharon, and in the very first column it says SAU proposed budget, and you look and you see the split, Farmington pays 808, Middleton pays 120.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the proposed amendment to Article 4? We vote on that amendment? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So all those in favor of amending Article 4 to read, shall the voters of the Middleton School District adopt a school administrative unit budget of $984,116 for the forthcoming fiscal year, in which $120,064 is assigned to the school budget of this school district. This year's adjusted budget of $985,903, with $120,295 assigned to the school budget of the school district, will be adopted if the article does not receive a majority vote of all the school district voters voting in this administrative unit. All those in favor of that amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Any other questions or comments overall on Article 4? Ready to move on?
Yes.
All those in favor of recommending Article 4 as amended to the voters of, to the ballot in March, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It carries. The article will be on the ballot as amended. Article 5. Shall the Middleton School District vote to ratify and approve the tuition agreement between the Middleton School District and the Governor Wentworth Regional School District for the purpose of educating Middleton students in the grades 7 to 12 for a 10-year period beginning on July 1, 2015 and ending on June 30th, 2025. This article shall only take effect if Article 2 pertaining to the bond for the new school and Article 6 pertaining to the withdrawal from the Farmington Middleton area schools are also approved. The school board recommends this article, the budget committee recommends this article. Do I hear a motion to consider Article 5? As read? Need a name?
Second.
I have Paul Barron. Okay. Questions or comments on Article 5? Yeah.
I just want to let the residents know, if they've read the tuition agreement, that the tuition agreement does not include outside testing of special education. So there are other costs that are included besides the basic tuition. There is also, I read in the busing, that if a child participates in an after-school activity, Farmington will be busing. If they go to a game, Governor Wentworth takes their bus to the game, we take our bus to a game. So we are spending more on gas, salary, use of the bus, because that is written in the tuition agreement. There are other costs if you read the tuition agreement other than just the basic tuition agreement. I just wanted people to know that.
Okay, yes, sir.
As general comment, when my boy's playing for the Governor Wentworth football team in high school, I doubt very much if he left in the parking lot and the rest of the kids go to the game. I find that very hard to believe.
Sorry. I'm telling you, it's written in the tuition agreement that way.
I'm sure that's what they're gonna do.
Oh, it's written. Way it's written.
Just to understand, so the kids in Tuftonboro, the kids in Ossipee, the kids in Effingham, they all take a separate bus?
No, they're not in the tuition agreement.
The way I'm understanding the tuition agreement, which the board could clarify, it says that we are responsible for busing after-school activities, late bus. We are responsible for that. So I take it as even a homeschool student, it says, decides to go for an after-school activity, we are responsible for providing the busing for that.
Okay.
And the expense.
Can we get some, the school board chair has hand up, let's see if we can get some clarity on this.
Looking at the tuition agreement on page 7, under 14. It says the Middleton will be responsible for transporting students from Middleton to the middle school and high school. No. It goes on to say, however, that Governor Wentworth.
Hang on, folks.
What color have that email?
Governor Wentworth shall provide Middleton students with transportation to school-sponsored events and extracurricular activities on the same terms and conditions that Governor Wentworth provides to its resident students.
The one that's on the website.
Hang on a second.
Sorry.
I had a question that some people don't know what document you're looking at.
I'm looking at it.
It wasn't given out.
Oh, they don't have that. Do you have copies of that?
Well, if they got it
Do
earlier.
you have copies of that?
The withdrawal? No.
So it seems to me that if we want the residents to ask questions about the tuition agreement, they need copies of the tuition agreement. Would we like somebody to go make copies of this, so you can take a look at it?
We have about 40 up here.
I'm gonna suggest that we go ahead and get some copies, so you can look at it, 'cause this is your opportunity to ask questions about it.
I make a motion, we table this one, we come back to it after the copy.
All right,
I'll second the motion.
all right, so the motion is that we put this aside for a moment and move on to Article 6, and we'll come back to Article 5. That's okay, we can do that, we'll take up Article 6. All right, so the motion on the floor to table Article 5 for the moment to go get some copies of the tuition agreement. It's been made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Yes, you got your hand up. All right, so what you you'd like to do is not pass this over, but get some more information. Right, and what was your comment?
I'm just gonna ask, where did you say it was, on whose website?
I read it on the SAU website.
Well, there you go. Which SAU website?
Right, so there's a motion on the floor to table this. Do you want to table it, or do you want to hear from some Wentworth District School Board members first?
Let's hear from the Wentworth School Board.
All right, so I got to take a vote on the motion to table, in respect to the person who made the motion. All those in favor of tabling Article 5 for the moment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
I'm going to give you one more chance. All those in favor of tabling Article 5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to tabling Article 5 signify by saying nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. Blame on me if you think I'm wrong. So we're still on Article 5, and a question or suggestion was made to hear from representatives of the school district relative to this tuition agreement. Does it sound right? You want to hear from them?
Yes.
It's up to you. They're not voters, so you're deciding whether... Anybody who would prefer not to hear from them? Okay. The floor is yours.
Okay. Lay down.
I'm going to step back here so I don't have my back anymore. Okay, yeah, my name is Jack Whitmer, and I've been on the Governor Wentworth Board for 20 years. So it's, I'm very, very proud of what we do in Governor Wentworth. I think this tuition agreement is the right answer to your students. Now, dollars and cents wise, it certainly helps our taxpayers because tuition, anytime tuition comes in, our tax rates can be down, which is terrific. But I think, and it also, I think, helps you a little bit in the tuition agreement with Farmington at this point. I think it's a little bit less. The question before about special education, there is some additional cost for special education for out-of-district placements and certain things that you're responsible for. Your basic special education is covered under the tuition agreement.
Right, it says any outside testing, which I know you have one contracted, one outsider.
Right.
Which one would you pick?
We have, there was some concern in the beginning. There was some tuition costs put together in the original estimate for case manager, paralegal support, psychologist, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and all those. And it looked like the original proposal for Middleton was $202,340 for special education that you may be responsible for.
So $202,000 in the
That was the
tax rate would be quite a bit.
But you're not. Because included within the tuition agreement is the case managers, which we have on staff at Governor Wentworth, which is $74,909.
So you wouldn't add another person?
That's correct.
Okay, so that would be subtracted from the
Correct.
202,000? Okay.
Correct. The speech therapy, your estimate was $20,160, and it's actually $10,160.
Okay.
So going through your list of $202,340, we're adjusting that amount to $106,935. So all of the other costs, $95,000 of the special education cost is included within the tuition agreement.
So the 106 would, 935 would be billed to us?
Correct. Those would be costs that above and beyond the tuition for special education that you would use.
Which is, just to let the taxpayers know, that's 61 cents added onto your tax base.
Now, the question before about the buses for field trips and those kind of things, if it's part of the Governor Wentworth process, one thing I want you to understand is when your students come to Governor Wentworth, they're no longer just Middleton students. They become part of the Governor Wentworth family. So anything that we do, your students are included just the same way every other student is.
I'm just reading the tuition agreement
Oh, no,
that
no.
it was written.
Yeah, I understand that, but any sports activities, any of that, we take your students to the sports activity, we bring them back to Governor Wentworth. You're responsible then to transport them from Governor Wentworth back to Middleton.
The way it's written, I interpret it as we are responsible for busing any extracurricular activities. To me, that means if you're going to a game, that means we have to transport, which kind of sounds ridiculous.
Right,
But
Where are you reading that?
I pulled it off the website
I
under
just read
tuition
you exactly
agreement.
what it says under transportation.
Okay, well, then the one on the website is wrong. 'cause-
Yeah, I think
I don't know what to tell you.
once you get the actual copy, you'll see that it's written that you're responsible for transportation from Governor Wentworth back to Middleton to go home.
As well as a late bus. I guess you guys,
The late bus is, again,
Which we
late bus
do now,
activities
so.
at the school, you have to take them back.
okay, so a late bus is like a wash.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, from what I hear, the 5 schools, they're all cooperating to Governor Wentworth, so they all pay equal.
No, that's not true.
No, they pay equal per student.
That's not actually true. The Governor Wentworth School District is 6 towns, and we have a cooperative formula that's been in place since 1963.